Black Ops 4 is not having a campaign. And for someone who's played Call of Duty all these years, the campaign was always the very first thing that I always played. Games like Titanfall that tried to be multiplayer only without really much lore behind it died, and the franchise is slowly disintegrating into nothing. Now, is that going to be the same thing with Black Ops 4? Now, if you look at the units, Modern Warfare 3 was the peak selling year of around 300 million units sold. It was either 30 or 300. Big difference, but we're going to go with 300 million units because, you know what, that sounds pretty good. And then we're going to go down further, and further to World War II, which is barely making over probably 20 million units at this point, which I'd have to estimate. Now, those are all a whole bunch of random numbers that can actually be debunked and actually looked at, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to be looking at the aspects of why not having a campaign is going to hurt Call of Duty Black Ops 4 more than it will help with the gains. So, before we get into anything, I'd really like to thank Thunder for uploading this video to TSG. I really appreciate it, and if you guys give the video a thumbs up to thank Thunder, saying, hey, thank you for giving us this opportunity. You give great enthusiasm and light into YouTube where everyone's out for themselves, and you're just a great dude. 2 thumbs up for Thunder, and let's get straight into the video at hand. So we're going to be looking at this from a statistical and macroeconomic view standpoint, where we're actually going to look at a perfect world hypothetical scenario on how much this is going to hurt Activision. And we're going to use Call of Duty World War II as our base because this is the most recent Call of Duty and the life cycle of the game's almost over. So Call of Duty World War II has almost already hit its peak of its life cycle. A game's life cycle is within the first year a game has been out, because that's the most amount of time where revenue is going to be generated for a good amount of period of time to actually count sale units and actual gains and losses. So we're going to strictly stay to Call of Duty World War II. The next thing is we're going to stay at PS4, because PS4 has totally outsold Xbox and PC by a large margin. If you actually look at VChart from an article from January, the PlayStation 4s actually made 67% of all sales. So it'd be more of a smarter and safer, as far as numerical ways go, to actually stick to the PlayStation 4. So as far as the PlayStation 4 goes, about approximately 13 million units sold have been generated since launch as of May 8th. Now that's a lot of copies of World War II being sold digitally as far as brick and mortar stores go, so you're getting a good amount. And I will put the actual numbers on the screen. I'm just going to say approximately to make it sound better as it comes out of my mouth, because you know what, when you say a lot of numbers it gets a little itsy bitsy. I think you guys are getting the gist of it. So now the hypothetical scenario. So while I was doing my research, I wanted to see how much Sony would have actually taken out of Activision for every unit sold. I honestly couldn't find that. I spent about an hour looking. The only thing I found was Valve and Steam, and I found from a few sources, and I guess they can call themselves Steam scientists or something. They concluded that Valve actually takes 30% for every transaction that is on Steam. So if Call of Duty's on there for $10, Valve's making $3 for every single sale that Call of Duty makes. And that's pretty good margin for how many people play on Steam, but that's not what this topic is. So we're going to go about making this video oriented towards just the sales on PlayStation and Sony. So we're going to take that 30% and make that hypothetical how much percent Sony is taking out of Activision. And then we're going to add another 12% for margin of error. And the reason I'm doing 12 is to keep the math a little simple. I picked 12 because I'm pretty sure there's a lot more components once you get to the micro level of the actual sale units that would be a whole different chart to calculate, and we want to keep it simple. So we're going to look at the macro, which is the whole gross of the economy span of things. So we're going to subtract 30% and 12% from 100%, that gives you a 58% profit gain for every single unit that Activision gets for Sony on their console in our hypothetical world where this problem's taking place. And to keep it more simple, we're going to keep the units sold at $59.99. That way there's no number confusion, no configurations that we actually have to do, no branching off of DLC, main game content purchases. We're going to keep it all at $59.99. So when you do the math, Activision actually makes about $35 for each unit that is sold for a PlayStation game of World War II. And then once you actually do the conversion of the $35 multiplied by the approximated 13 million units sold, it gives you about 450 million that actually was gained from the game. And it will be a different number you will see on the screen, but the reason I'm saying 450 million is because it's easier to say than all the numbers that I have to say, but that still is a pretty gross margin that Activision gained, and that's a pretty good number. And that number right there is going to be our Bible for the rest of this video, because what we're going to be looking at now are the trophies for World War II on the PS4. Now, if you look at the trophy for completing the campaign, you can see that approximately 25% of the player base actually finished the campaign. And for people saying that nobody actually plays the campaign anymore, 25% out of approximated 13 million units, that's a lot of players. So to say that nobody plays campaign is a huge understatement, and especially when it comes to profit. Because what we're going to do is we're going to make our consumers that 25% of people strictly bought Call of Duty just for the campaign. So now that we have these group of individuals who just bought the campaign, we have to set up our P and Q values for approximation and probability. So P will be equivalent to 28%, or not 28, 25, I'm getting ahead of myself, 25%, and Q will be approximately 75%. So when you multiply, you can choose either or. If you do Q, that's going to give you how much money was made without campaign, and if you do 25%, that's how much money would have been lost without the campaign in. And when you do the math, regardless either way, about $110 million is lost from sales when you alienate that 25% of the Call of Duty community. So you're looking from approximately $450 million gained, dropping all the way to 335 some million dollars. Activision has sliced a quarter of their profit margin already by getting rid of the campaign. And in this perfect world example, we're not including people angry about the season pass. We're not including people boycotting the game because you had to buy the game digitally to get free DLC in a 3-year-old game. We're not boycotting supply drops in this world, so we're not including that factor. So realistically, you could say maybe 40% profit margin could have been lost. But just 25% alone in this perfect world example slashes profits straight down the gutter. It would make Black Ops 4 the worst profiting Call of Duty game ever made, because they'll have microtransactions, but if nobody's playing your game like they used to, that microtransaction growth is slowly going to decline because people aren't going to want to pay for loot. They're not going to want to pay for weapons, maybe skins, but I highly doubt it because that's the name Call of Duty. So sales are going to slowly trickle down. And 110 million approximated, that's a big number. And as far as stockholders go, in this perfect world, they would also be pulling out. So that's more money lost for Activision because they're losing faith in a product that used to bring in billions on billions of dollars just for the base game. And then I wanted to do something a little bit for the fans and everything of zombies at the end of this video, because no one says nobody plays zombies. But if you take the Sigma, it's like if you take a chemistry class, you learn the U, and that is for an average. If you take the average out of all the zombie trophies and the percentages, you can actually see only about approximately, and this is lowballing, 6% of players actually played zombies. So you're saying nobody plays campaign, but there's a less percentage of people playing World War II zombies. And that's the brand new Call of Duty that came out. So 25% compared to 6%, if you're on a business scale, you would slash off zombies, make campaign and multiplayer, and find a way to microtransaction campaign to make it have a higher life cycle. Maybe campaign, you could be like, you play campaign, you get special guns, camos, and even COD points that can transfer into multiplayer. Oh, we have a salvage system. You can earn salvage by playing campaign, by completing special missions, competing it on realistic. It would boom. You'd have a higher player rate in campaign, or vice versa. You could do that in zombies, which World War II did do for zombies, but no one's still playing it. Barely 6% to 7% of people actually are playing World War II zombies. And to take it a step further, if you calculate the average from the trophies that are gained from DLC 1, 1.2% of the entire approximated 13 million units sold actually did play the new zombie map for DLC 1. And DLC 1 is always the most selling DLC for Call of Duty. So you're going to tell me that campaign meant nothing to Call of Duty? We've done the math. We've done our hypothetical scenario. So that just means Activision made a huge mistake cutting out campaign. You're going to lose about, in this perfect example, 25% of your player base, 110 million some dollars, and then you're going to be catering to 65% of people who actually stay to play multiplayer, and then the 9%, not 9, but 6% of players who play zombies. So alienating a quarter of your purchase margin. And if you look at Steam, 70% of Steam players actually play the campaign more than multiplayer. But that's a whole different, convoluted, difficult topic. This video is super long because you have to do all the math. You have to do all the explanations. So if I were to make this a thesis, it'd be stated simple as that, as this. By slicing off the campaign, Activision has alienated 25% of its consumer base. As well, probabilities of sales being decreased would be 25%, causing a hypothetical based on last year's Call of Duty sales of $110 million. And that would be the thesis, hypothesis that Activision has done by simply removing the campaign. So that's just a thought to ponder and a thought to think about. And I hope you guys actually got some kind of insight that campaign is super important to Call of Duty. And without a campaign, you are severely crippling already slowly declining perfect slope that Call of Duty is going on in a strong negative correlation. So that's about it for this video. I have numbers on the screen throughout the video, so if you guys got lost or don't understand where I got some values, just go through the video, pick it out, and you'd be able to see it. And this has been Doomy. Hope I educated you guys a little bit, and thanks for watching. And if you guys like my content, I'll be doing more of this kind of stuff on my channel. And thanks for stopping by, and later.